Chicago Tribune, brain damaging lead found in tap water in hundreds of homes tested across Chicago. Okay, this is nothing new to me because when I first started covering issues, it was all about the lead poisoning in Buffalo, New York, and this happened there 10 years ago, and nothing has changed, and no one is helping these children, and no one is changing the pipes, and no one is fixing the infrastructure, and all this money is being spent elsewhere, and none of it is going to help the people in Buffalo. It's surely not going to help the people in Flint, and it's not going to help the people in Chicago. And it's not just in Chicago, it's nationwide. The lead pipes are now deteriorating across the entire country, and it's going to rob our children of their future because it is brain damaging. It has it has physical ailments, causes proclivity to violence, attention deficit disorder, depression, hyperactivity, lowers the IQ. So what's going to happen to a generation of children who have lead poisoning? What happened in the 80s when they were burning, there was lead in the gas and they were burning it and the fumes were in the air. There was a huge spike in violence for those years because people were suffering from lead poisoning and became violent. So that's very scary. We're poisoning and we're taking away the future of our future in the country by not replacing all the pipes in the country and spending our money elsewhere. So I'm going to read real quick. Amid renewed national attention to the dangers of lead poisoning, hundreds of Chicagoans have taken the city up on its offer of free testing kits. A Tribune analysis of the results showed lead was found in water drawn from nearly 70% of the 2,797 homes tested during the past 2 years. Lead was found in 70% of the homes. What have they done about it is my question. What have they done about it? So tap water in 3 out of every 10 homes sampled had lead concentrations above 5 parts per billion, the maximum allowed in bottled water by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Alarming amounts of the toxic metal turned up in water samples collected throughout the city. The newspaper's analysis found largely because Chicago required the use of lead service lines between street mains and homes until Congress banned the practice in 1986. The testing kit's results provide the most conclusive evidence yet of widespread hazards that have remained hidden for decades. Mayor Rahm Emanuel borrows hundreds of millions of dollars to overhaul the city's public water system. Chicago is keeping lead service lines in the ground. Okay. So this is nothing new. This is happening all over the United States. Let's read the stats on the rest of the country. 1.2 million children in the United States have lead poisoning. We're only treating half of them. 1.2 million children in the country have lead poisoning. And that's just the ones that were tested. That's just the ones that we know of. So, and that's a huge problem there is, number one, they're not being taken care of. The pipelines aren't being replaced. The houses aren't being remediated of lead. We can't put money into that apparently in this country. But that's only the children that were treated or tested. And so many children are not treated for lead poisoning. Researchers at the Public Health Institute California Environmental Tracking Program reported that the overall number of children with elevated blood levels between 1999 and 2010 in the United States was 1.2 million, or double what the Center of Disease Control and Prevention had reported. So they found out that it was actually double what the Center for Disease Control and Prevention had reported. So obviously, someone's trying to cover it up. Why? Because they don't want to put the money into the infrastructure. Why? Because they want to put it into things like, well, now with Trump, the wall, war. But also, I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that, well, if children have lead poisoning now, and have a proclivity to violence later. There's going to be more people in jail when they are teenagers and adults, isn't there? And that seems to be popular in the United States, imprisoning people. That seems to be a great way for people, for politicians and big corporations to make money. So maybe not stopping the lead poisoning in the United States is on purpose, so that when these children do become adults, they can imprison them when they commit crimes. Also, it's going to be very hard for children to ask for much out of a government if they're suffering from attention deficit disorder and depression and physical problems and can't get an education and can't get a well-paid job. So if you have people who are, you know, sick and generally struggling with their own problems, they're not going to be so quick to point out corrupt politicians and what they're doing. They're not going to be so quick to ask for things like infrastructure and free education and things to better the community. They're going to be too busy dealing with their health or other issues. So, hey, what was that quote? An uneducated country is a country that's easily to control. So when you have a generation of children who have learning disabilities and they grow up to be adults, I suppose they would be easier to control then. It's just a thought. Just a thought. So America's infrastructure literally makes children sick. This was another article, and I didn't write the source down. I apologize. The problem is with the pipes. Prior to 1980, most U.S. drinking water systems contained lead service lines. Today, there are an estimated 6 million lead pipes still in operation, servicing at least 10 million Americans. And a USA Today investigation found 2,000 public water systems across the United States with elevated lead levels that exceeded the Environmental Protection Agency's limit of 15 parts per billion. 350 were in elementary schools and daycares. Civil engineers have estimated that overhauling America's drinking water system and bringing it up to code will cost at least $1 trillion. Number one, people are sick. It's robbing children of their future. People are sick now and suffering now. And by keeping these lead pipelines in across the United States, it's going to rob future generations of their future. And the question is, why doesn't the government change the pipes? Well, let's ask, what is the government spending money on right now? What are their priorities? How much money is going to what right now, instead of fixing the pipelines, instead of making sure that the children have a healthy, happy future, and to prevent poisoning the children? So this is in CNBC. Cost of bombs. This is the most recent bombing in Syria here. Let's just see how much that cost, because that was so important, more important than keeping children from being poisoned, apparently. U.S. forces fired 66 Tomahawk cruise missiles on 3 Syrian targets early morning local time, making for a price tag of $92.4 million for those missiles alone. For those missiles alone. The U.S. fired 19 of a different kind of missile on Syria, and the cost of that was $26.6 million. That's a lot of money on one day of bombing. And we did that last year, and we have an ongoing presence in the Middle East where we're constantly having airstrikes. We're doing airstrikes every day. We're killing thousands of civilians in the Middle East. I can't even imagine the overall cost. And I'm not saying that other politicians are not guilty of doing the same thing, but let's just focus on the here and the now. I would really love an estimate. If someone gets it, please message me and message me the estimate. How much have we spent since Trump has become president on military actions in the Middle East? Because I could gamble and say that maybe with that money we could have fixed the pipelines and prevented American children from being poisoned and brain damaged by lead. But that doesn't seem to be a priority for the government. What else do they spend money on? Trump signs order to send National Guard troops to U.S.-Mexico border, one congressional aide said the lawmakers anticipate 300 to 1,200 troops. 300 to 1,200 troops will be sent to the Mexican border, will be deployed, and that the cost was expected to be at least $60 million to $120 million a year. So Trump appeals to his base by saying that the Mexicans are bad hombres, that they're drug dealers and rapists, and he's going to stop them from coming into our country, because this is one of the biggest problems in our country right now, is the Mexicans coming into our country. This is what Trump says. And his people eat it up. Eat it up. Stop those Mexicans from coming into our country. Stop those Mexicans. $120 million a year? Yes, worth it. Do their children have lead poisoning, those people? Maybe not yet. Maybe not yet. Spending for traveling. This is small, right? Small. Obama averaged $912,000 a year for travel. Trump racked up $114 million in his first 9 months. So Trump spent $114 million in travel in his first 9 months. $114 million in travel in his first 9 months. A lot of that was to Mar-a-Lago and having people protect him and his family members. When his family members traveled, the Secret Service would have to go with them, and his wife, who still lives in New York instead of at the White House, and she has this bill running over there. So all that money, and then we can't fix the pipes in the United States, and we can't save the children's future. This is something I have a huge problem with. I hope you guys do as well.